Hello, everyone, and welcome to Uncivil Law. And for today's story, we once again turn our attention to the ongoing Me Too case that is Blake Lively versus Justin Baldoni in relation to the It Ends With Us movie. As I'm sure many of you know, Blake Lively was an actress on this movie, and Blake Lively has made some serious allegations relating to Me Too, but Justin Baldoni is not sitting by and waiting. He has filed a countersuit along with significant evidence relating to text messages and has launched a website to make sure that all this is being detailed for anyone who wants to see exactly what's going on. So they have taken a bold step, basically being like, this is all lies. Let me show you all the things and let me show you why it's lies. So this is not panning out the way Blake Lively apparently wanted it to pan out. She said Me Too, and Justin Baldoni's like, I don't think so. So we're going to start to review this case because the complaint is 224 pages, and then there's a couple hundred pages of appendices on top of that. So we can't possibly cover all that in one stream. But we'll cover some of it, and depending on whether or not you guys like it and whether or not people respond to this positively, we will do some more. But let's get started with it and see what you guys think about it. We are in the United States District Court for the Southern District of New York. In the cases of Blake Lively versus Justin Baldoni, as well as Justin Baldoni versus Blake Lively, which have been consolidated for the purposes of pretrial because, of course, they are closely related. And today we're reading the first amended complaint from Justin Baldoni. So we are reading his complaint as part of his suit. So we'll go ahead and do that. We turn our attention to the general allegations. The following is not a story the Wayfarer parties ever wish to tell. And then they have a little footnote, which they say, in the interest of transparency, a complete timeline of the sequence of events alleged herein is attached here to as Exhibit A and incorporated by reference in its entirety. So like, as I said, like if the complaint itself wasn't enough, we have like 150 pages of appendices to go through at some point as well. Unfortunately, Blake Lively has unequivocally left them with no choice, not only to set the record straight in response to Lively's accusation and the New York Times malicious and reckless propagated falsehoods in response to their article that they published, which of course the New York Times is also being sued for defamation in relation to all this, but also to put the spotlight on parts of Hollywood they've dedicated their careers to being the antithesis of. That task was always going to be an uphill battle. They never imagined they would encounter it to this degree. Had Lively chosen to merely ride out the self-inflicted press catastrophe she faced in August 2024, the public would never likely have moved on and never known the truth about her. They would never have known that she deliberately and systematically robbed the Wayfarer parties, Justin Baldoni and Wayfarer Studios, of their movie. So this is one of those major accusations relating to this, that she basically took over the movie. She took over the production and director roles and editing roles and basically hijacked their movie from out from under them, and then still wasn't satisfied and then claimed Me Too on top of it. So basically the counter accusation here is that she is insufferable and she has taken over everything that she didn't really create, pretended she had more to do with it than she really did in terms of the production aspects of it, and then has been insufferable on top of everything. So basically just the worst kind of person is basically the counter accusation. No one expected the parties involved would have known that she used threats and extortion to relitigate the colleague she once highly praised to a basement to sit out their own premiere. That's one of the accusations as well, that she forced the producers of the movie to not even attend their own premiere because she wanted it to be all about her. While she enjoyed the spotlight of the premiere and after party that was only co-financed by both Wayfarer and Sony. She would have gone away with these things and more because Baldoni, focused entirely on seeing the film succeed, would have held his tongue, as he had throughout the year and a half that Lively tormented him, his families, and his partners. Yeah, I think Justin Baldoni may have been doing some really strong gamemanship here, because I think I think he was waiting for the public accusation to happen that he could respond to, so that he could do a response rather than being the first to strike. And I think he just allowed her to cook, and then he was anticipating that this would happen. So I think that he gamed this out in a very, very bright way. It's like he probably could have gone forward first, but it might have seemed petty. By making her go first, it makes it seem like she is a B to the it shot, right? All that stuff. But Lively could not tolerate her publicly tainted image for even a moment, and further could not accept that this was entirely of her own making. The woman does not understand accountability. She needed a scapegoat, and rather than admit to accountability for her own mishaps, she chose to blame the Wayfarer parties in a malicious and unforgivable public manner. When she and Reynolds could not force Baldoni and Wayfarer to read a statement she and her representatives had prepared, extorting them to take accountability in defense of Lively's actions, she lay in wait for months, preparing to publicly attack Baldoni by falsely claiming that they had sexually harassed her. And probably, again, Baldoni had some indication this was coming. The idea here is that she and the New York Times were effectively involved in an active conspiracy. It wasn't just the New York Times being a passive recipient of news, that they were directly responsible in this story's manufacture as well as its publication, which would make them a more responsible party by their participation. The same falsified stories she had calculatedly devised and used throughout the production of the film in order to take control were now being used to publicly destroy Baldoni and the Wayfarer parties. Based. Lively stole the Wayfarer movies, hijacked the Wayfarer premiere, destroyed the Wayfarers party's personal and professional reputations and livelihood, and aimed to drive the Wayfarer parties out of business entirely. It further appears that Lively worked for months with equally powerful New York Times to prepare a false and damaging narrative to deploy against the Wayfarer parties. Again, going to this idea of an active conspiracy. Not surprisingly, Lively prepared an administrative complaint with the Civil Rights Division in California in an attempt to use the litigation privilege to shield her behind-the-scenes conspiracy with the New York Times. So the idea here is that the New York Times might try to claim, look, we were just merely reporting on things that were in a lawsuit, right? And that's privileged. And so we shouldn't be held responsible because we're just reporting on the news. But Baldoni is saying, well, no, that's not true. They weren't just merely reporting on it. They tried to use this as a cover, right? They were involved in an active conspiracy, and they tried to use this step as a shield to protect them from their own malicious statements, which doesn't really work. So that's the idea there. But upon information and belief, the complaint was only filed after the party spent months feeding falsehoods to the New York Times, intending they be disseminated to damage the parties, so that the complaint itself becomes part of the campaign to try to get past that litigation privilege. Lively delivered the complaint to the Wayfarer parties over the Christmas holiday, and rather than promptly file a lawsuit, Lively, on information belief, leaked the typically private complaint to the public, utilizing the New York Times as a conduit for her revenge. The complaint, and upon information belief, the false information delivered to the New York Times before the complaint was filed, was rife with lies and doctored evidence. Lively then waited 11 days to file suit against the parties in what seemed to be a desperate move after the public questioned why she had never filed a civil lawsuit. On information and belief, Lively never intended to file a civil lawsuit, which would have triggered the party's right to discovery, including obtaining evidence and deposing Lively under oath. By the time Lively actually filed lawsuit, The damage to the parties was done by virtue of Lively's months of collusion with the New York Times on false and malicious narrative, unshielded by any privilege, which would be true, right? It would be true. Like if they're working in concert and conspiracy, that would not be protected by privilege. So you can't use the privilege that exists after the fact to try to prevent things that happened before. The privilege existed. So all that conversation and all that coordination, to the extent it happened, obviously predates any sort of complaints and therefore can't be protected by the complaints because it didn't exist yet. So that's, exactly what they're talking about there. Make no mistake, these actions were deliberate. The Wayfarer parties now have no choice but to fight back armed only with the truth and a mountain of concrete evidence disproving the allegations as they've attached in Exhibit A, going on for like 150 pages of exhibits. Heartbreakingly, a film that Baldoni envisioned years ago would honor the survivors of domestic violence by telling their story, with a lofty goal of making a positive impact in the world, has now been overshadowed beyond recognition solely as a result of Lively's actions and credulity. So basically, not only is she not Me Too, she has undermined Me Too by stripping them of their story. Because It Ends With Us is no longer about the victims of domestic violence. Now It Ends With Us is about Blake Lively, right? She has made herself the story and detracted from the story that was supposed to be told. So, way to go, Blake. Lively wields immense power as one of the world's best-known celebrities. In 2024, she used that power to seize control of the film It Ends With Us, produced and co-financed by Wayfarer and directed by Baldoni, which also portrays the lead. She set out to destroy the Wayfarers party's livelihood and business if they did not bend to her incessant demands, and when they refused to give way, she did exactly that, accusing them of foul and reprehensible sexual misconduct, which sounds suspiciously like extortion. Do what I want or I will ruin you. Sounds suspiciously like extortion. Wayfarer then was blindsided when Lively, upon conclusion of the industry strikes, refused to return to production absent the company agreeing to her non-negotiable protection for return for production, that insinuating misconduct had occurred on filming, which, as evidence will establish, did not. Wayfarer was equally blindsided when Lively leveraged this document, essentially signed under duress to seize control of the film, ultimately getting her own cut of the film and coveted PGA mark, which she didn't really earn. So she's trying to get titles and, other sorts of recognition that she didn't really earn. And at the outset of this, ousting Baldoni from all marketing and promotional efforts, which is really odd to exclude the producer from the production-related promotional efforts, with many cast members and the author, all of whom, until then, had a long-standing positive relationship with. She managed to get the producers out of their own movie. Lively's exclusion of Baldoni from the promotion of the film backfired, as she chose to callously promote her hair care and alcoholic beverage products rather than bring attention to the survivors of domestic violence, which is the premise of the film. Again, making it unduly about her, rather than what the film is supposed to be about. Baldoni, now prohibited from attending events or taking photos with Lively in the cast, produced the film as he always intended ever since he began making the process of making the film years ago. She took away the man's vision. She took away the man's baby, his film, and she converted it into her own, using extortion and other illicit means. And then, when it all blew up in her face, tried to hide behind Me Too. Basically, that's what's going on as we speak in this. When Lively faced significant public backlash from what was often referred to as her tone-deaf and insensitive press tour of the film, she doubled down on her false and misleading accusations against Baldoni. She seemed determined to make Baldoni the real-life villain in the story. Her publicist, Leslie Sloan, went so far as to propagate malicious stories portraying Baldoni as a sexual predator, a term Lively's husband, Ryan Reynolds, also used to describe Baldoni when he called Baldoni's own agent. Modern society justly reviles sexual harassment and abusers, and Lively knew full well that making those accusations would be a career death sentence for the Wayfarer parties, especially given Baldoni has lived his private and public life as an impassioned advocate for gender equality and healthy masculinity. She did not expect, however, the Wayfarer parties would be able to meet these allegations with concrete documentary evidence disproving her claims and demonstrating that they, not Lively, were the target of a calculated and vitriolic smear campaign. So Lively basically is just saying me too, and Baldoni has receipts, again, which he is more than happy to share with you on his website, bringing attention to this exact issue. So you can download it for yourself from his own website. Of course, you can also download it from the court if you prefer. This is the Southern District in New York, if you care, and the case number is right there on screen. So if you prefer, you can download it yourself directly from Pacer or from Court Listener or other websites if you prefer. So it's public record. You can get it from the public court docket or from his website, whichever makes you happier. The film was hotly anticipated and was a hotly anticipated adaptation of a worldwide best-selling book from Colleen Hoover, and by starring it in as Lily, Lively stood to enhance her already considerable star power. But she was not content merely to headline one of the year's biggest movies. Instead, apparently driven by overweening ambition and a need for control, Lively eventually leveraged her power as a wealthy celebrity to wrest the reins from her co-star and the film's director, Baldoni, insisting on total control over every aspect of the film she could get her hands on, from wardrobe to marketing strategy to music, even by creating her own cut of the film, which is pretty weird, right? Why is an actress making a cut of the film? That's not what they do. Editors are really good at editing. Actresses are good at being actresses. You know, she is fallen victim to one of those halo effect ideas, right? Because I'm really good at one thing, that necessarily means I'm good at everything. Is she a good actress? Perhaps she's a very good actress. Does that mean necessarily that she's a good director or a good editor? Nope. It doesn't necessarily mean any of those things. Now, she could be good at those things, but it doesn't necessarily mean she is good at those things. And even if she were good at those things, that's not the role for which she's been hired related to this work. So it doesn't really make sense, but she's doing her own cut anyway, because reasons, I don't know. Also, it's a little weird to do her own cut of the movie before the thing even premieres. And it's like, maybe give the producers a chance. Lively eventually leveraged her power as a wealthy celebrity to wrest the reins from her co-star and film director Baldoni, insisting on total control of every aspect of the film she could get her hands on, from wardrobe, which again, actresses aren't wardrobe, to marketing strategy, also not marketing, to music, also not music, even creating her own cut of the film, also not an editor. She seems to misunderstand the assignment. She seems to fundamentally misunderstand the assignment. Your job is to be an actress. Be the very best actress you can be. Do your job as best as you can. Let other people do their job really well. Not only did Lively's power play cost numerous people their jobs, but every turn, her wrong-headed creative decisions reflected a fundamental lack of understanding of the book the film was based on. This came as no surprise to our worried colleagues, given that even into production, Lively had not even read the book, which is a slightly strange choice. I mean, there could be a reason not to do it. There could be a reason not to read the book. Perhaps you think, as an actress, that you shouldn't read the book because maybe you don't want to be unduly influenced by the primary material because you just want to work with the script that you have in front of you. I suppose that's a valid choice. But it's like your understanding is going to be somewhat limited, and maybe that's okay, but you can't then like, oh, I really understand the depths of this character. It's like, no, you understand what the screenwriter wrote, which is not necessarily the same thing. And maybe it's not supposed to be the same thing. Maybe the screenwriter has made choices different from what the book writer wrote for their own reasons, because sometimes you do that in adaptations. But it's like, well, you didn't even read the primary material, but you're going to like tell everyone what you really think the character is like. That seems like a strange choice, man. I'm glad you like the beard. I like the beard too. The beard is making me happy. Well, thank you for your kind words. In a September 14th, 2023 text message from Baldoni to Heath, Baldoni writes, after rereading the book, which had 150 pages to build their relationship, we've combined scenes to hide in the sake for Ryle in pursuit of Lily, which makes sense. We know that to be very common. Scenes get combined. Characters sometimes get combined. Sometimes you have to add to it to make something different. Movies are not books. Movies are not books. They can be very faithful adaptations, but even the most faithful adaptation is not the book because it's a different medium. You know, it really wouldn't work if you adopted it one for one. It just probably wouldn't work very well. So, you know, but they're making choices like, you know, you do when you need to rewrite it for a different medium. Well, I understand Blake's reason for not wanting to read the book. The book does a very good job in getting into Lily's mind during interactions with Ryle and setting up why. Is not reading the book, if you're an actress, a valid choice? Yeah, I suppose it is. But, you know, then you're going to be somewhat limited by it. And then you're not going to necessarily understand why the screenwriters making the choices they're making, or why they're making certain choices, because you don't understand the baseline. And maybe you don't want to understand the baseline because you think it unduly pollutes your performance. But, you know, then again, that's a choice you have to make. So, but she hasn't read the book. So, okay. Lively's disastrous marketing efforts and tone-dead press interviews and appearances backfired and led to widespread criticism on Lively's promotional approach to the film's highly sensitive focus on domestic violence. Past videos of Lively resurfaced online, videos that appeared to solidify the public perception that Lively was an insensitive mean girl who cared more about peddling her products than by acknowledging domestic violence survivor community, which again seems like a bit of an odd choice. You know, they let the movie do the movie thing. Social commentators quickly point out the tie-in to her alcoholic beverages was particularly given poor choice, given the World Health Organization estimates 55% of domestic violence incidents are linked to alcohol. The only thing that's surprising me about that number is that it's only 55%. If you told me to guess what the number of domestic violence that's linked to alcohol was, 55% would not be my estimate. I'd guess more. But apparently, the World Health Organization says 55%. Okay. All right. Unbelievably, Lively made this harmful and irresponsible message worse by naming a drink at her premiere after party, While You Wait, after the character who committed domestic violence in the film. Naming an alcoholic beverage after an abuser is a choice. Okay. The suggestion that Wayfarer caused the online backlash against her is absurd given evidence of her own insensitivity. Sadly, this backlash could have been avoided had she not refused to meet with the film's domestic violence partner organization as Baldoni had been offered. Even a brief visit to their website or simple online search would have readily uncovered this and other information on the topic of domestic violence. Yeah. Meanwhile, Baldoni, who Lively herself had ensured was excluded from participating in marketing efforts, which again, kind of weird when he's the production, was safeguarded from this backlash as he focused on amplifying the voices of those affected by domestic violence, as originally intended when he reached out to the author 5 years earlier and documented by his partnership with the domestic violence organization dating back to 2022. Baldoni's sincere efforts were well received, even more so in contrast with Lively's campaign to downplay the premise of the film and sell hair care and alcohol products. Yeah, those seem like strange choices. Lively, enraged that her plans were foiled and armed with so-called proof of an alleged sexual harassment, in the form of 17-point listed demands she required the Wayfarer parties to sign just months earlier, focused her rage on Baldoni, blaming her for the consequences of his own misstep. The woman apparently does not understand how to take accountability. She made mistakes. And rather than correct those mistakes, she wants to blame others for her own mistakes. Meanwhile, Stephanie Jones, founder of Jones Work, Wayfarer and Baldoni's PR firm, was embroiled in a personal and professional crisis. Her increasingly erratic behavior had driven away not only high-profile clients, but also her right-hand woman, Jennifer Abel, who oversaw Jones Work LA office. Thank you, Alan Parker, for the 20 gift memberships. We do, as always, appreciate your strong support, and thank you. Jones's behavior grew more and more bizarre as she lashed out at loyal clients like Wayfarer in rage-filled rants and veered away from professional experiences and strategy when making critical decisions affecting Jones's client. After a final outburst against Wayfarer in which she outright refused to comply with direct instructions, Wayfarer had no choice but to cut ties with Jones and Jones Work, rather than leaving their public image in the hands of what appeared to be an out-of-control Jones, whose actions were not aligned with Wayfarer and Baldoni's worldview and wishes. Jones's was filled with an impotent rage at Wayfarer and Abel, who a month before had announced the decision to leave Jones Work to form their own company. Jones saw an opportunity for revenge, and she took it. On information and belief, Jones, Lively, Reynolds, and Sloan, Lively's publicist, and others concocted a plan whereby Jones would seize Abel's phone upon her departure and mine it for messages that, stripped of context, could be used to concoct a false narrative that the disastrous press coverage of Lively's callous and opportunistic comments and the public reaction were not Lively's fault at all, but the result of a calculated, though in reality non-existent smear campaign by Baldoni and his team. On information and belief, Jones's role in the scheme accounts for his conspicuous absence from Lively's retelling of the events. The Wayfarer parties are informed and believe the Lively parties have been working in concert since at least August 2024, when Sloan boasted Nathan that she had seen her text and Nathan would soon be sued. Though Lively claimed that Baldoni was the one smearing her, the reality is it was Lively and her team who had carefully planned and implemented a vile smear campaign against Baldoni and Wayfarer to deflect attention and blame from Lively's disastrous misjudgments. Lively would recast herself as a long-suffering martyr by portraying Baldoni and Wayfarer as her persecutors. The mastermind behind her smear campaign, the evidence will show, did not exist. Sloan of Vision PR was all too willing to carry out the strategy, especially one armed with ammunition by Jones, who was bent on revenge against an ex-employee and further former client. Shortly after the film's premiere and public backlash against Lively, together with her husband, Reynolds, demanded through her talent agency, which also represented Wayfarer and Baldoni, that the Wayfarer parties publicly apologize for the so-called mistakes during production in order to deflect the avalanche of negative media coverage of Lively. Reynolds and Lively drafted a statement and demanded that Baldoni, Wayfarer, and Heath issued a statement requiring them to apologize to the public and fall on their sword despite having done nothing wrong, or else the gloves would come off. Again, sounding suspiciously like it might be extortion. Do what I want or I'll ruin you sounds suspiciously extortionist. Multiple WME executives acknowledged in their experience Lively and Reynolds' threats were not to be taken lightly, though admitting to false, vague, and unspecified mistakes would be tantamount to admitting career-ending misconduct. Baldoni, Wayfarer, and Heath refused to apologize for sins they had never committed. They took a stand, knowing full well that Lively and Reynolds would bring the full might of the celebrity artillery against them, and that is precisely what happened. So the extortionate threats were coming out. Lively, working with her husband and publicist, and Jones, among others, set out to campaign to tar and feather the press. I'd just like to take just a brief moment to say thank you to the 300 of you who are currently watching this stream. If you'd be so kind as to please hit that like button, it would help a lot. The like button is one of the things that YouTube looks to indicate whether or not this stream is something that people will like. So if you hit the like button, it will probably help this stream be picked up by the algorithm. So it costs you nothing and would help me. So please take the moment to just hit that like button. And that would be very, very nice of you. And if you want to spend a little money for only 99 cents, you can hit the join button and become a member of the channel. And then you get cool emojis, behind the scenes content. You get to watch editing streams, and you get some cool emojis. You get an icon by your name, and otherwise that sense of being an uncivilian. Slightly better than the non-civilians who don't have the green and the icon behind their name. So you get the slight feeling of being one of the uncivilians, and thank you. Lively, working with her husband and publicist and Jones, among others, set out on a campaign to tar and feather the Wayfarer parties in the press. They conspired and worked in concert with the New York Times to put out a blockbuster news report as devastating as it was false. They advanced a false narrative. Thank you, Kara Shelton, for becoming an uncivilian. The Lively parties laid out their trap carefully over a period of months before springing it all at once on the eve of the winter holidays. Just as plainly, they knew full well that their claims were entirely baseless because of their own wrongfully obtained evidence proved that neither the alleged sexual harassment nor the accompanying smear campaign against Lively ever existed. Yet, Lively moved forward with her plan with ruthless precision, doubling down in the face of abundant evidence casting doubt on the veracity of her story. Lively went even so far as to serve her lawsuit on Los Angeles-based defendants as they evacuated their homes in the midst of devastating fires engulfing the city. Lol. On the day where the Wayfarer parties were gathering their kids and pets, preparing go bags and monitoring evacuation orders, Lively, from the safety of her penthouse in New York, deployed process servers in the midst of these troubling times. Wow. I mean, what a nice little thing. Like, as Rome is literally burning, she's sending out process servers. Nero fiddled, and Blake is sending out process servers. Wow. Amazing. Yeah, that seems pretty insensitive, man. At bottom, this case is not about celebrities snipping at each other in the press. I don't know about that. It's a little bit about that. This is a case about two of the most powerful stars in the world deploying their numerous power to steal an entire film right out of the hands of its director and production studio. Then, when Lively and Reynolds' efforts failed to win the acclaim they believed they so richly deserved, they turned their fury on the chosen scapegoat. I really like the way this attorney writes. Their use of verbiage is very nice. And it's very, it's also very controlled. They're using imagistic language, but it's very well moderated so that it's not overpowering, which can be a tricky thing to balance. So they're using their adjectives and imagery language and purple prose with a good deal of moderative control, which I really appreciate. So I really like the way this attorney writes. It's not bland, and it's not boring, and it's not rote. And it's also not overpowered. It's not they're using the spice with an appropriate amount of control. So I like the way this is written. I just like, they so richly deserved their fury. It's like these little touches every once in a while. Tolerating a year and a half of behavior while remaining polite at every turn offered Baldoni and Wayfarer no protection. By bringing this complaint, the Wayfarer parties commit themselves to seeking and proving facts based not on insinuations built from selectively edited and context-free text snippet, but by putting all the evidence before the court and the public. So again, this is an interesting way to go about it. And you got to have some massive huevos to do this. Plus, you got to really believe that you're in the right to do this as an attorney. So do I approve of this as an attorney? If you can do it, I approve of it. But you're literally putting your cards out on the table. You're like, I'm basically going to dump my discovery on the open docket as part of my complaint. And it's like, you gotta really believe in what you're doing in order to pull that off. So it shows a lot of confidence, because it's certainly not required under the rules, right? Notice pleading is the standard under the rules. You just have to put them on notice, and all you have to do is make the prima facie case, just the case on its surface. And you don't need to provide any evidence at all. You just need to represent that things are true. You have to believe they're true. You can't just make shit up. But you can just be like, oh, there are text messages that do exist that reflect these things. You don't actually have to provide the text messages as part of the complaint, right? That would happen later. But to actually provide the evidence on the complaint with the complaint shows a lot of confidence. And if you can pull it off, kudos to you. I've seen it done to great effect. The last time I saw it really done to really great effect was in relation to the election fraud cases relating to the 2000 election, when the voting companies basically dumped their case on the docket to prove defamation. They're like, okay, Fox News and Rudy Giuliani have defamed us by saying our software is crap and all the rest of it. And that's a hard case to prove for the voting machine companies. But they basically, in their complaint, dumped all the evidence on the docket in their complaint. And I remember reading it. I was like, oh. And I was like, oh, these guys are toast. And then they were toast to the tune of $800 million. So if you can pull it off, it's a power move. It's a power move. By bringing this complaint, Wayfarer parties commit themselves to seeking and proving facts based on insinuations built from selectively edited and context-free text snippets by putting all the evidence before the court and the public. When the Wayfarer parties have their day in court, the jury will recognize that even the most powerful celebrity cannot bend the truth to their will. Hardcore. All right, let's learn a little bit more about the parties. Who are these people? All right. Baldoni co-founded Wayfarer. So he's a producer. He owns the production company. That's what he does. Wayfarer was dedicated to being a different kind of studio, one that produced world-class entertainment driven by a powerful vision for change. Well, I'm not sure how different that makes them, but that's fine. Baldoni, whose film career was dedicated to producing and directing meaningful films to have a positive impact on the world, was deeply moved when he read the book It Ends With Us and genuinely believed he could make a film that saved lives. His last two films were created as a result of a deep sense of responsibility. Again, this is very typical, right? We're going to make ourselves seem like saints, and we're going to make the other people seem like the devil. So, as has been said by, for example, Emily D. Baker, complaints are allegations plus shade. Also, plus making ourselves look like the good guys. So, we're going to do everything to make ourselves seem like the greatest people ever, and everything to make the other people seem like Satan themselves. So, we're going to get into the flattery portion of this, I guess, right now. Self-flattery. His last two films were created as a result of a deep sense of responsibility to share meaningful stories. Baldoni's feature film debut, 5 Feet Apart, was based on a young woman, Claire Wineland, who lived with cystic fibrosis and courageously documented her plight on YouTube. Baldoni, his family, and friends developed a friendship with Claire, whose journey deeply inspired Baldoni. Before Claire passed away, Baldoni promised he would tell her story, and he did just that in the film he directed. The film had a wide impact on the CF community, and Baldoni still receives messages about the film's impact. Baldoni also supports her foundation yearly and remains close with Claire's parents, even bringing her father as a guest to the premiere of It Ends With Us. Baldoni's more recent film was Wayfarer film Cloud, a true story about a teenager with cancer, Zach Zobek, who finds purpose, joyful and purpose, inspiration in the music. In pursuit of the same vision, in 2019, Wayfair acquired the rights to the film It Ends With Us, a novel published in 2016. Though positioned as a romance novel, the book explores themes of domestic violence and generational patterns of abuse, and these messages resonate deeply with readers and passionate fan base. In 2021, the novel exploded in popularity thanks to the social media phenomena of book talk. Many fans expressed how important the book was to them as survivors of domestic violence and intimate partner abuse. When It Ends With Us, author Colleen Hoover watched 5 Feet Apart in theaters, she told Baldoni, "You're the right person to make this movie," referring to It Ends With Us. Baldoni's early emails to Hoover demonstrate the commitment to doing so in the manner he envisioned would be most impactful. In fact, it was Hoover, the author of the book, who apparently suggested that Baldoni portray the character Ryle. Okay. And apparently here is an email from Justin Baldoni to Colleen Hoover. "Hello, Colleen. Thank you for the introduction. Wow, it's such a pleasure to meet you, and thank you for being open to having me potentially option your book. Some quick backstory. My purpose and intention in this same business are simple. Create impact by making content that helps us remember our shared humanity. Content that asks us to be better, to make the hard choice in the moment that one day on our deathbeds we'll be grateful for. It's been a tough road, but an incredible one, as our industry does not often reward those trying to challenge culture. Luckily, it's the message of those who watch the content that are rewarded and the lives we've affected. I've always believed the financial reward will come, but it's not the primary motivation. As I may have told you, I'm building and got funded for a company whose mission is to tell high-end, meaningful stories, and I just finished my first film with a second setup at Warner Brothers going this fall, based on this short doc I directed 7 years ago. Also, if you'd like to see an early screening of 5 Feet Apart, I'm sure I can make it happen. Where are you based? Just wanted to say of the reviews I've read for your book, this one stood out to me. It makes me so excited to potentially work with you. Your fans love you. What a gift you have." Quote, "Of all the heroines I've ever read, Lily was certainly one of the ones I admired most. I knew I loved her from the first few pages, but having finished the book, I couldn't be more proud of her. Her strength and conviction over the course of her story made her a heroine I want every girl and woman to read about and look up to. She was so real and vulnerable, as we all are, but the strength with which she took control of her own life was admirable on such a deep level. I just wanted to hug her and cheer. I don't think I've ever been this proud of a fictional character before." Unquote, presume. Oh no, the quote continues. "There's an incredibly powerful message in this book that's very subtly woven from the start. It begins in the first chapter, but you don't realize how significant each of these moments truly are. As you read more, these pieces of the story come together, forming a scenario that gives us such a raw, honest portrayal of an incredibly relevant issue. I'm not mentioning it on purpose because I don't want you to expect it. The fact that it's unexpected for you as the reader is very important because it's unexpected for the heroine. As she begins to realize what situation she's in, so do you. And this realization allows you to journey with her." Unquote. Yes, please send over an ebook, but I also purchased it on a paperback as I like supporting authors. Looking forward, Justin. And then apparently here's an email back, I guess, from Colleen. So here's an email back. So from the author of the book. Back to Justin. The author of the book writes, quote, "Thank you so much for the email. I wasn't expecting you to read so quickly. I'd love to talk to you more about the project. You get the book, and that's the most important thing to me. My big fear is that I'll option to someone who thinks it's a hot romance and they'll take it in absolutely the wrong direction." Holy shit. "I'm going to be upfront with you about a couple things so if you can decide to move forward. I've sold several film options, and I realize not all of them get made, and I'm okay with that. One of the film options was not a great experience. The producer started a fundraising company for the film without my knowledge or permission beforehand and ended up taking over $100,000 from my readers. The film was never made, my option was never paid, and I ended up pulling the plug on the project, and the producers never refunded the readers their money. I feel terrible that my readers were the one punished. Lynn Britton, member for 18 months, says, 'Missed you on a cruise without YouTube for 7 days of an all, My creators, of all my creators, I missed you the most. Now we had the flu, so I get to catch up on everything we missed. Well, thank you, Lynn. I do appreciate the compliment, and I'm glad that I'm the creator that you love the most. That makes me happy. Aw. Aw. I can't be everyone's number one, but I'm glad I'm yours. That's nice. Makes me feel like I'm doing something right in this world. Where were we? All right. I feel terrible my readers were the one punished, so I mailed out $15,000 worth of free products to those who donated to the campaign. I want to be positive that crowdsourcing is not something that will be done when it comes to this film. It's important to me that a funding plan's in place so it won't affect supporters of the book. While that experience wasn't a positive one, I've had a wonderful experience working with a producer on Confess. It was a 7-episode series that got picked up by Awestruck and Go90, but unfortunately, right before it released, Go90 declared they'd be shutting down. Because of that, Confess released on an already defunct platform just a week before they were scheduled to shut down. Luckily, my readers got to watch it, so it was not all lost. And the overall experience was so fun and very surreal. I didn't really have a lot of involvement beyond reading the script and getting the dailies. I just handed them over and let them do their thing because it was immersed in the project on time. So she's had some bad experience with Hollywood. Wow. Someone had a bad experience with Hollywood. What are the odds? What are the odds? Pressing on. It ends with us is important to me, though. I would love more involvement on this film. I've actually been working on a script for it already, along with a producer friend of mine who lives in LA. Her name is Blank, and she's a very dear friend of mine and a huge fan and supporter of the book. We sat down for a week and outlined it last month, but I had to put a pause on it because I'm on a deadline for this book I'm writing. We planned on picking it up 2 weeks and diving into it. Even though I'm the author, I've been able to set myself enough from the format of a book to know what would make the best setup for a film, which, whether or not she can actually do that, who can say, right? Those are not necessarily the same skills, but, fair enough. While I do want to please readers who read the book, I understand the need for the film that will equally touch those who haven't read the book. So a film should, I believe, stand on its own. I do believe that. A film should stand on its own. It is its own thing. So you should be able to go into a film and know nothing about the book and have a good experience that hopefully is in some sense, to some degree, representative of the book. But you shouldn't have to have knowledge of the book because it's an independent medium. It should stand on its own. So that's fair enough. Are you based out of Los Angeles? Maybe we can meet and have a chat about our vision for the film to make sure we're on the same page. I'm based in Texas, but I'm in LA a lot. Other than ensuring my readers won't be asked to donate to fundraising for the film and hoping to have more involvement in the process, I don't really have any other requests. I realize your experience with the film far outweighs mine, and based on the magnificent adaptation you did for 5 Feet Apart, I'm confident you could do the book justice and our visions will align. I watched the film 2 nights ago and would immediately start the book yesterday. Sometimes I do like to do it backwards. I think you did a wonderful job. Even though I'm not finished with the book yet, I feel like the essence of it was captured beautifully throughout the film. I wrote a book where one of the characters suffers from CF, so I've done a lot of research on the subject and thought Rachel and you did such an amazing portrayal of what the carriers of CF do through. So it seems like they're, friendly towards each other, which makes sense because eventually they will work together, right? In fact, our very first donation through the Bookworm box was made to the Cystic Fibro Foundation. We donated in honor of the childhood of one of my readers. His name is Blank, and he's just an incredibly inspiring kid. Check out this video. It's actually funny when you emailed when you did. When the email came through on my phone, I was on your website browsing Wayfair. Love the #MeTooChat. Okay, that's enough rambling. I really do appreciate the email and appreciate you taking a chance on reading the book. My readers are so ready to support this book and what it's meant to so many of them. So naturally, I want them to be happy. I want them to bring an adaptation they're proud of. Did you happen to read the author's note at the end of the novel? It's a quick read if you didn't get the chance to read it. My mother inspired the book, so maybe that's why I've been so hesitant to sell the rights in the past. I feel good about you. I've seen your past work, your passion, and love for humanity, and honestly, I feel there's no one better for the project. Before I direct you to my agent, I just want to get some thoughts on the above. Thank you so much, Justin. I hope you and your family are able to get some vacation time in. signed Colleen, with a postscript. However this works out, I would love books for the bookstore. In fact, we just started a YA book box, young adults box, and would love to feature 5 feet apart in the subscription box as a way we can find a few hundred copies at cost. Everyone needs this book in their possession. So, fairly banal emails there. All right, fair enough. Your work is great. Your work is great. Let's work together. Hugs and kisses. Fine. Soon thereafter, Wayfair partnered with Sony to co-finance and distribute the film. Their agreement included, at Wayfair and Baldoni's insistence, a provision that was a deal breaker, a requirement that 1% of film proceeds be donated in support of survivors of domestic abuse. That 1% was only earmarked for the organization No More, which Baldoni had sought to partner as early as 2022. As they began making the film, Baldoni and Wayfair felt an immense responsibility to not only do justice to the protagonist, Lily Bloom, but the stories of survivors around the world. Heath, CEO of Wayfair, expressed to Forbes his high hope for the film, saying, quote, "I hope that people leave the theater feeling inspired, that for those who have been hurt, they feel seen and the story was a way to honor them. I feel like so many people see themselves as someone who may get hurt, may think twice about it. So I hope that people leave feeling they got a glimpse into a world that oftentimes we turn our eyes away from." In casting Blake Lively, a world-renowned actor with talent and charisma, in the leading role, they entrusted that her vision, which brought Lily to life. Although Wayfair learned that Lively had a reputation for being difficult to work with, Baldoni was at the time not dissuaded and found her to be genuine. On or about December 31st, 2022, Lively agreed to take a lead role of Lily Bloom. As part of subsequent negotiations, Lively was granted an executive producer title that was given executive producer credit, a title that's given to a talent of her stature. Lively had requested a producer credit, but Wayfair and Sony demurred, given such a title would not accurately reflect the role. So they gave her the title executive producer, which often means nothing. It's like, sure, you're an executive producer, fine, whatever. Wayfair did not request nor require that Lively contribute to the film in any capacity beyond her roles as actor and executive producer. In the beginning, it appeared that Baldoni and Lively would have a positive, collaborative creators partnership. Baldoni and Lively worked closely in early days of the film, trading ideas about filling key roles in the cast and crew. All right, give me 1 second, get my tongue untied here. 1 moment, please. All right, let's see if I can read the English language now. Their working relationship grew close. Baldoni and Lively shared stories and pictures from their lives, commiserated over family illnesses, and exchanged jokes and memes. Baldoni often offered concern and support where Lively faced family health concerns. They texted almost daily, and a friendly banter established a comfortable dynamic that, under typical circumstances, would make working together easy. I'm guessing it didn't end that way. It probably didn't end that way. Lively even felt comfortable enough to make silly jokes, redirecting a sweet compliment Baldoni gave. Justin Baldoni apparently texting, "Well played, Blake Lively. I feel the same. It's such a good feeling to get work done that we're proud of, and to do it together. It just clicks where we find it. And that's just rewarding as filming it, or editing it, or marketing it, or releasing it. This is all storytelling. That's why we do it." I mean, yeah, that's kind of what films should do. They should tell stories. That's a good thing to do. Thank you for your collaboration. I'm really proud of what we're doing. Baldoni, loved, I feel the same, it's such a good feeling. I like sentimental Blake. Blake says, I never met her, lol. I also like asshole Blake, don't worry. Yeah, it turns out we didn't like her that much. I've met her, I bet you have. So I have my suppositories, good night. Yeah. That was the nature of the relationship, which made Lively later allegations all the more baffling. Almost immediately, Lively began inserting herself into the production process in intrusive ways well beyond the scope of her contractual entitlements. For example, Lively began to insist on creative control of her character's wardrobe, which again really is odd because She's not wardrobe. That's not what she does. While lead actors are sometimes granted approval over their character's general look, they generally do not receive full control over wardrobe decisions without input from the director or producers. What might seem like an innocuous request can in fact have monumental impact on film production. Yeah, I would think so. I mean, that could be a real thing to make happen for any number of reasons. Ignoring the director's vision for her character and disposing of weeks of effort and creativity spent by the wardrobe team on shopping and carefully creating a wardrobe, Lively sent hundreds of images to the film's costume designer, including into the late hours of the evening, depicting the style of wardrobe she wanted for the character. The costume designer had to reshop Lively's wardrobe, far exceeding the allocated budget and diverting time and resources, while also preparing wardrobes for the rest of the cast. At one point, Lively insisted her character had money and could afford $5,000 shoes despite being a fledgling small business owner. If you're spending $5,000 on shoes, you're spending too much money, man. We need to have a talk. We need to have a talk. This forced Baldoni to rethink the entire script that had been in the works for well over a year and was approved by Sony and Wayfarer, a script that Wayfarer had commissioned multiple drafts of and incorporated countless notes, including input from the book's author, Colleen Hoover. The wardrobe budget ballooned. Lively often refused to participate in wardrobe fittings at the production office, which is a mere 15 minutes from her home. Instead, she insisted the costume department pack up the wardrobe and deliver it to her personal residence. Loading the wardrobe department onto trucks and delivering the contents to Lively's home in the middle of a congested Manhattan for fittings cost time and money, always in short supply on any major film. Requests of this nature are typically made during contract negotiations. Since Lively made no such request at the time, this additional expense was not included in the budget. Lively, who had a greater obligation to the studio as an executive producer, paid no heed to budget constraints, let alone to the months of planning that are being completed. Oh, Lord. The shoes were fire. They'd have to be for $5,000. Damn. They'd have to be the most fire shoes of all time. That reminds me of a prank that was once pulled. I forget by whom, but they opened a what would you call it? A pop-up shop in New York City, and they put out advertisements and A-list and the whole like 9 yards, right? So it's like this big like thing with invite only and A-list and models and like the whole thing, right? So there's like this big like pop-up galleria, right, kind of thing. And as memory serves, every single shoe that was there was Payless. And so every single shoe was Payless, and everyone was picking up the shoes and commenting about how great they were and how like wonderful the design was and all this stuff, right? Because people were under the impression the shoes were really, really expensive. I think they might have even been told they were expensive. Like this shoe is like $5,000 when in fact it was like $50. But emperor's new clothes kind of territory, right? Everyone's like, oh, these shoes are just amazing. They're such a forward-thinking design, and right, it's like the perception of value is an interesting thing, man, when it gets exposed. In an effort to maintain harmony at the start of their working relationship and to avoid further delays caused by wardrobe conflicts, Baldoni in the studio reluctantly ceded full control to Lively over her wardrobe. This concession quickly proved regrettable. Also reminds me recently of Walmart. Wasn't it Walmart or was it Target? I think it was Walmart, actually, that released that Birkin bag clone by Hermes. And I think they actually had to like take it down because Hermes got really, really mad because they were selling a bag that looked too similar to the Hermes bag. but it was being sold by Walmart for like $50 or whatever. It's like, yeah, yeah. What if it was a watch? Well, it depends. Some watches are, watches can hold their value. So it depends what kind of watch, and also depends on the technology of the watch. So it depends on a lot on like what kind of watch and their historical value. About like should you spend money on a watch, right? So some brands have historical ability to hold their value. Like for example, Rolex is legendary to hold its value. Um, so and there are other watches that can hold their values, but you want to watch so but you can get great watches for not very much money. There are Seiko, of course, always a great brand to start with. Seiko makes some fantastic stuff. Also, if you want even less, like the Casio Duro, which is like a $60 watch, is not a bad place. I'd personally replace the band on it because that rubberized band I think looks really, really cheap, but the watch itself looks really great. So if you can get some watches that are really nice for not very much money, but or even like a Swatch, but those are kind of disposable. But if you're going to spend money on a watch, you probably want to pick a brand that like holds its value. Yeah. And never go into debt for a watch. Incidentally, like while we're on the point, never go into debt for a watch. You can get great stuff like this. The Citizen Duro. Get rid of the rubber band, put it on a NATO, put it on a leather strap. It'll look great. Seiko 5. You can get some great divers for under $300. It'll look great in everything. There's lots of great choices for watches. Yeah. Aren't watches obsolete? Depends. I've worn a watch all my life. So at this point, I wear a watch. I never take my watch off, even to sleep or shower or anything. So at this point, I've been wearing a watch basically 24/7. I mean, not exactly, but you understand what I mean. Like I've been wearing a watch 24/7, 365, basically, with minor exception since I was like 10. So at this point, like not wearing a watch would make me feel really, really weird. Incidentally, it was one of my more esoteric complaints when I took the bar. It's like you're not allowed to wear a watch when you take the bar. I was really pissed because I'm just so used to wearing a watch. It kind of was like So yeah. Plus, of course, phones need power and they need charge. Plus, you need to take them out of your pocket. Whereas a watch, you can just do this. I was like, oh, okay, right. That's really easy, you know. And if you're using if you're the watches will run, they'll run for a lot longer. A traditional watch, especially, like I don't really like the Apple Watch because it needs to be basically charged every day or every 2 days. It's like that's some bullshit. It's like I don't want a watch that has to be charged every 2 days. I want a watch that has to be charged at best like every 3 years. Like if I'm going to do quartz, it's like I no. It's like how about I measure how long it takes to change the battery for years, or you just do an automatic where you never have to change the battery because there isn't one. Why can't you wear the watch while testing? I don't know. Ask the bar. It was their rule. Don't ask me questions. I don't know. I guess they didn't want to police like what kind of watches, because some watches obviously like with the Apple Watch and stuff, you could like get internet access on that, and they didn't want to police what kind of watches. So they just simply made a rule against all watches. Eh. That's enough watch talk for the moment. We can talk watches on another stream though. Although I'm still fantasizing, the watch I'm fantasizing about is the Hamilton Khaki Automatic in 42 millimeter. If anyone wants to super chat me like $750, so I can get my Hamilton khaki automatic field watch. Let me know. Following these events, Baldoni approached Lively in her hair and makeup trailer when she was surrounded by her team to ask if they could speak after she was getting done her hair and makeup done. Baldoni wanted to discuss necessary wardrobe adjustments, reassert her role as director, and get her on board with him having to improve her character's wardrobe. They later had a conversation in her trailer. While professional, it took considerable time and was later grossly misrepresented in Lively's CRD complaint, which falsely characterized the exchange as a lengthy outburst that delayed filming and caused her crew to wait for hours while Baldoni cried in a dressing room. On information and belief, Lively circulated this false account to the New York Times with the intention and result it be widely published. This conversation did not take hours, and any length of time it took was not because the Baldoni cried for hours. In truth, rather than take heed of the concerns of the film distributor and director, Lively took time to, among other things, suggest to Baldoni that was being gaslit by Sony, Heath, and the other producer to try to convince him to let him take them at the helm. Baldoni did briefly become emotional during the conversation, but only in response to what he believed was a genuine complaint from Lively, praising his work as director and actor. In hindsight, this is part and parcel of an ongoing pattern of manipulation and gaslighting by Lively, intended to allow her autonomy over her wardrobe. Lively later distorted this conversation in support of her baseless harassment allegations, alleging that Baldoni made inappropriate comments on her appearance. In reality, Baldoni, the film's director, was relaying the distributor's concerns and widespread social media criticism regarding Woodrobe's failure to meet audience expectations, as Emmett Baldoni shared. Yeah, it's a little bit, that's like, yes, I was commenting on your appearance, but I was commenting on your appearance because you're a character in a film, right? That's like, yeah, yes, I commented on your appearance because we're going for a particular look for the character. As that's my job. I'm the director of the film. So, yes, I was commenting on your appearance. Or more strictly speaking, I wasn't commenting on your appearance. I was commenting on the character's appearance. So, yeah. The incident is just one of many examples of Lively's trouble pattern of manipulation and lies. Another example, early in pre-production stage, Lively sent Baldoni a long text describing how directors never permit her to write scenes for movies she acted in, nor gave her writing credits. Well, okay. I mean, that's obviously a choice by the production, but they have their own writers. And, the writers do writing things, and you're the actress. Your job is to say the lines, not necessarily recite the lines. Your job is to say the lines, and then your choice is in how to say the line. Right? That's what you do. Not necessarily write the lines. You're not the writer. Lively boasted she had even written for her husband's movies. Well, fantastic. That's your husband's choice. Presumably, if your husband is a producer and wants you to be a writer on his films, cool. That's his choice. Then Lively asked if she could take a pass at writing a rooftop scene in Ends With Us, in which the characters Ryle and Lily first met. The pivotal scene, much beloved by book fans, was crucial for setting the tone of the movies. So Baldoni was reluctant to allow an actor, rather than a union screenwriter, to write the scene. But Baldoni felt the need to allow Lively to rewrite the scene and agreed to take a look at what she put together. The draft of the rooftop scene that Lively sent Baldoni differed dramatically from what they had written originally. Baldoni was hesitant about many changes, but thanked Lively for her passion and diplomatically told her the scene would likely end up being somewhere between the original version and Lively's version. Seemingly stung by Baldoni's exceedingly mild resistance, Lively did not respond and went silent for multiple days. Later, she confirmed via text message that Baldoni's response, of course, didn't feel great for me, or another mega celebrity friend and Ryan Reynolds, to have my passion praised instead of my specific contribution. Well, they didn't really like her contribution, so they were trying to be as nice as they could. Lively was referencing to an earlier meeting in which Lively summoned Baldoni to her New York penthouse, which Baldoni was greened by Ryan Reynolds, who launched enthusiastic praise for Lively's version of the scene. Hours later, as the meeting was ending, a famous and famously close friend of Ryan Reynolds and Lively walked in the room and similarly began praising the script. Baldoni understood the subtext. He needed to comply with Lively's direction for the script. Later, Baldoni felt obliged to text Lively to say that he liked her pages and hadn't needed Reynolds and mega celebrity friend to pressure him. Lively responded that the two were her dragons. Nice. Lively went on to say, they, Reynolds, and the mega celebrity friend also know I'm also not good at making sure I'm seen and utilized for fear of threatening egos or fear of affecting the ease of the process. They don't give a shit about that. And because of that, everyone listens to them with immense respect and enthusiasm. So I guess I have to stop worrying about people liking me. The message could not be clearer. Baldoni wasn't just dealing with Lively. He was also facing Lively's dragons, two of the most influential and wealthy celebrities in the world who were not afraid to make things difficult for him. Blake says, if you could send me the FDX I'll work with, I can steal moments. Yes, of course, please send it to Christy. We're all on the same team with a goal. Justin writing, great. Also was working on the rooftop scene today. I really love what you did. It really does help a lot. Makes it so much more fun and interesting. I would love to work. I wouldn't feel that way without Ryan and Taylor. You two are really great across the board. Really excited and grateful to do this together. Blake saying that's very much appreciated and it means a lot. I'm deeply inspired by the film we're going to make outside the success of this book. We have such an opportunity to not only surprise people who love the book, but reach even a bigger audience by making it undeniably dynamic and also commercial film. The moment you excited me the most the other day was when you said you're not funny. You are going to kill that rooftop scene. You know it, I'm sure. Even though what I said in playful self-deprecation we all participate in, it made me think of the process as a whole. Please know I trust you on that day you got me, and I hope that you trust me I got it when you want it. We're in this together, and we're the two of the most determined people I know. We've also set a very high bar for ourselves to collaborate with the type of partner that's a gift that neither of us will squander because we care too much about the result and also the experience. I have no motives except for you to win. As a director, as an actor, as a studio, as a writer. If you win, I win. If you win, our movie wins. We're aligned, and I'll bring everything I have to this. And as for Ryan, I'm the luckiest MFer on the planet to have them as my dance mom's level stage. Well, basically, they're Karens. Basically, she says that Ryan Reynolds is her Karen. That's nice. That's right, nice. Ryan Reynolds. Did you lose your balls? Did you lose your balls? Do you remember where they were? Do you keep them in your wife's purse? Holy shit. That said, they're also my most trusted partners and the people I go to first with anything creative I touch. And I'm the person they each go to first. That reciprocal creativity and support has been one of my life's greatest and most fulfilling gifts. When they loved and signed off on the pages, I felt good to send them to you. They asked what I thought I was specifically after. They checked in so many times. I told them you laughed a bunch and said it's probably a blend, but you appreciate my passion so much. Which of course didn't feel great for me, or them, to have my passion praised instead of my specific contribution. Or even just that you didn't like the pages, which was fine also. So I think they wanted you and me to see how they felt about the work, because they've been by my side so far, too many experiences where I've been overlooked. I spoke to you about this when we first met. They watched me hand write scripts because the director is too afraid to send the FDX file, yet he scans and has someone hand type all 120 pages of my pencil rewrites. They watched me be hired as a writer and paid a significant fee for it, but on the condition I never asked for credit, which I could give a shit about. It's more the principle of dynamics in play. They watch the other side of it too, where I'm told at signing, they really want me as a true collaborator. But once I get to work, I'm really just wanted as a yes man audience and actor. Both Reynolds and Blank have established themselves about as absolute titans, as writers and storytellers outside their primary gig, just sitting or acting or just directing. I'm so lucky to have them as creative barometers, but I also have them as people who prop me up and make sure I'm seen for all I can do and offer, because they know firsthand I contribute. They also know I'm not always as good at making sure I'm seen and utilized for fear of threatening egos or fear of affecting the ease of the process. They don't give a shit about that. And because of that, everyone listens to them with immense respect and enthusiasm. So I guess I have to stop worrying about people liking me. If you ever get around to watching Game of Thrones, you'll appreciate that I'm Khaleesi. And like her, I happen to have a few dragons. Lol. For better or worse, but usually better, because my dragons also protect those I fight for. So I really all benefit from those gorgeous monsters of mine. Lol. This woman seems a bit insufferable. This woman seems a bit insufferable. Yeah. You're an actress, you know? Do the actress thing. Do the actress thing. Be the best actress you can be. As Sean, potentially criminal, might say, put the fries in the bag. Put the fries in the bag. Just be the best actress you can be. That's your job. Difficult proved to be a gross understatement. Though Baldoni initially invited Lively to make changes to the script, Lively began altering the script daily. Yeah, you shouldn't probably have not opened that door. That was a mistake. The frequency of Lively's revisions alarmed the producer, director, and studio, who anticipated her interference would persist every day of the shoot and disrupt the carefully produced schedule. Yeah. Yeah, they obviously never watched. She never watched Game of Thrones. I know, and I know, it's a shame that the producers of Game of Thrones stopped after season 7. I mean, it's really a shame that they stopped after season 7. I really wish that they had written a season 8 and helped to bring some resolution to the story. We could have seen the characters fulfill their story arcs. That would have been nice. Oh, well, too bad. Each shooting day was intricately shot long in advance. And Lively's consistent changes placed significant stress on the production crew, not to mention financial strain on Wayfarer. I mean, we could have, for example, if such a season 8 had existed, we could have, for example, seen winter finally come. I mean, given how much winter was built up, I mean, that would probably have to be a whole season unto itself, to be quite fair. So we probably needed a season 8 and then really on season 9, because, I mean, the way that winter was built up as this thing, I mean, you need a whole season just to justify the tension. I mean, could you imagine if someone tried to write it off in like only an episode or two? How hollow that would be? I'm glad that didn't happen, man. That would have been really sad. The producer texted, "Are you listening to this? She's fixing the script. I think the advice was actually wrong. Blake is now directing the movie. This is bad." James Heath, "I'm listening. Taking it, though, is better than not. Seeing what's possible, as long as any decision is done with approval. Not for something that's already intimately planned. This will be every day of the shoot. I know. I'm not sure what can be done, honestly." Well, what really needs to be done is the thing you don't want to do, which is putting her in her place. That's the thing you don't want to do, because you're afraid she's going to Karen this thing. The problem is you open this door, and you probably shouldn't have opened the door. That was the problem. And now you don't know what to do, because the only thing you can do really is bite the bullet. Is like put her in her place, and then she probably threatens to quit, and then you need to find a new actress. But yeah. More than a year later, during a red carpet interview at the New York Film's premiere, Lively stated the iconic rooftop scene. My husband actually wrote it. Nice. That startling revelation directly contradicted Lively's previous insistence she had written the scene, and certainly cast Reynolds' high praise for the rewrite scene in a different light. The film's credited screenwriter, when asked about the claim Reynolds had written the scene, graciously responded, "So if I'm being told that Ryan wrote that, then great, how wonderful." She went on to acknowledge, "There were a few little flourishes I did not write. If those flourishes came from Ryan, I think that's wonderful." There were also the first time that Wayfarer parties learned that Reynolds, who has no formal role whatsoever in the film's production, had made unauthorized changes to the script in secret. Baldoni, equally, how many likes do we have? 202 likes, but 300 people watching. So that's at least 100 people who have not hit the beautiful, beautiful like button, which seems like a real opportunity for 100 people to hit the beautiful, beautiful like button who have not done so. Maybe you should do that now. Lively's remarks about Reynolds' purported contribution to the script raised eyebrows sky high at Sony, who told Wayfarer that they certainly need some clarity on public comments made about Ryan's potentially contributing writing services to the rooftop scene. And here's an email from Wayfarer's legal counsel. It's from Sony Legal. Sony Legal has questions. "Hello. We certainly need some clarity on public comments made about Ryan Reynolds potentially contributing writing services. Can you provide additional information on this, as there are no contracts, his services are not on the chain, nor is his name in the credits? One of many people who made this claim is Blake Lively. Thanks for clarifying. If services are rendered, obviously we need signed documents. Legal is not happy." Legal is not happy. Yeah. Yeah. We have someone who's contributing to the work who hasn't signed any documents relating to their contributions that the work is now being based off of and is now being filmed. Yeah, that's a real problem. The intellectual property lawyer in me just cringed real hard. The IP lawyer in me just cringed real hard. It's like, let me get this straight. Someone is contributing to the work as an author who has signed no documents, and now we are basing our production and our work based on that work. Yeah. So what you're telling me is we have a joint author who now arguably has an undivided interest in the entire work and could, at least in principle and theory, sell the work themselves completely independent of us, because they're now a joint contributor and have an undivided interest in the whole, and could hypothetically, potentially sell their work. And also now we've made a derivative work based on that. So our hypothetical liability is looking really, really large. Counsel is not happy. I share counsel's unhappiness. This is a problem. We have someone who now, in addition to Sony, in addition to all the producers, now potentially is a co-owner of the work that we didn't know about. A co-owner, undivided co-owner. Great. Yeah, that's making my IP juices very, very unhappy. That's making my IP juices very, very unhappy. Yeah. 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 Still during the pre-production phase, Lively and Reynolds raised entirely false allegations of fat shaming against Baldoni. An accusation that, as evidence will show, is categorically false. Yeah, I mean, I can't even begin to fully tell you how much this is freaking me out as an IP lawyer. I can't begin to tell you how much this is freaking me out. The potential ramifications of this are immense. Yeah. Baldoni had been introduced to trainer Don, who became Baldoni's personal trainer by Lively. Don directed Baldoni's preparation for the film role, including his nutrition exercise, making special accommodation for Baldoni's back injury. Baldoni was even paid to receive Don's meal delivery service. Yeah. On April 22nd of 2023, Baldoni privately reached out to Don. His personal trainer asked what Lively weighed so he could train his back muscles in preparation for a lift scene. So I was asking how much she weighed because I need to be able to pick her up. Yeah. So the inquiry is professional. Right? I wasn't asking how much the woman weighed, as some personal snark. Is it acceptable to ask a woman how much she weighs? Well, in a personal capacity, that's, treacherous perhaps, but this is professional. I have to pick you up. I need to know how much you weigh because I'm going to pick you up. And so I need to know that information. So, she's taking a professional inquiry personally. Yeah. This is important not only to avoid injury to Baldoni, who suffers from lifelong back injuries, multiple bulging discs, and chronic pain, but also to Lively if the lift could not be completed safely and successfully. Notwithstanding Lively's recent attempts to deny the existence of any such scenes, it was only nixed at her insistence of having been planned and rehearsed. So, although it ultimately didn't make it into the film, it was planned, and then it fell apart, so the inquiry was professional. Just like the wardrobe, what's that girl wearing? What you're wearing is inappropriate. You shouldn't be wearing that outfit. As a personal comment, questionable. As a professional comment, for an actress, strictly speaking, again, we're not even talking about you. We're talking about your character, right? We're talking about your character's clothing. It's a professional inquiry. It's like, Jesus Christ. You don't apparently know the difference, ma'am. Do you not understand the difference between a professional inquiry and a personal inquiry? If your doctor asks you how much you weigh, right? We understand the difference between a personal inquiry and a professional inquiry, right? Do we get this? Or do I have to explain it in easier to understand words? On April 25th of 2023, Lively summoned Baldoni to her penthouse, purportedly to discuss the script. However, he's met with an angry Reynolds, who screamed at Baldoni and accused him of fat-shaming your wife. How dare you fucking ask my wife's weight what's wrong with you? It's a professional inquiry, Ryan. Calm the fuck down. It's a professional inquiry. Calm the fuck down. The confrontation between Ryans and Lively was so aggressive, Baldoni felt he had no choice but offer repeated and completely unwarranted apologies for what was a good faith and reasonable question. It sounds like it was a good faith and reasonable question. Like, I have to pick this girl up. How much she weigh, though, kind of might be important to me. Reynolds demanded Baldoni remove the scene entirely. Lively refused to perform the lift scene in the end, even after it was rehearsed with a stunt double. In her own complaint, Lively flat out lies about the absence of the scene by claiming the scene wasn't in the film. The only reason the scene was in the film is because Lively and Reynolds ensured it would be taken out of the film. Oh, that's important. That's important information that was missing in the original complaint. Accommodating Lively, Baldoni rewrote the scene with Lively, despite the fact that for creative reasons, the scene was important to tell as a story and director. And again, going to her control. Going to her control. The actress does not understand her place. The actress does not understand her place. That is basically what this story is all about. Producers do producing things. Directors do directing things. Editors do editing things. Makeup artists do makeup artist things. Wardrobe does wardrobe things. This woman does not understand her place. Stay in your lane, put the fries in the back. Do your job. Don't do other exciting jobs. Just do your job. Be a professional, man. In fact, Lively had earlier expressed insecurity about her postpartum figure, and Baldoni made every attempt to reassure her. In this exchange, she stated as her director that anything you feel insecure about, we'll talk through and get creative and make you feel comfortable. I don't want you to stress about your body. It's the last thing you need. When he later tried to do just that, Lively responded with allegations of sexual harassment. It's like, again, do I really need to explain? Apparently I do, right? It's like, this is where I'm getting frustrated on their behalf. It's like, do I really need to sit here and explain why, as a professional, in a professional context, we're making a movie? Do I really need to explain why talking about the way you look is important when you're like, the person that's being filmed? Do we really need to have this conversation? It's like, what about this are you not understanding? What about this do you not understand? Blake says, thank you for your voice memo. It's deeply appreciated. You're everything you promised as a collaborator. Thank you. I know my job here. Are you sure you do? I'm not sure you do. And this piece is a big part of my job here. We both understand the assignment. Narrator. It turned out, in fact, she did not understand the assignment. As actors in roles, but also as producers and also as marketers, you're not a marketer. We also understand artistically, yes, but what we need to do is in all aspects of the movie commercially. No, please let other people do their job. That'd be great. As woke as we both are and work to be, this movie requires a certain aesthetic. That just might be the biggest red flag ever. If you unironically describe yourself as woke, please just get as far away from me as possible. I'm sorry. I'm based and based and woke. We really just don't see eye to eye on literally anything. I don't know what the problem is. I'm not sure why we don't see eye to eye. I think you're absolutely insane. You think I'm absolutely insane. I don't understand why you are the way you are. I don't get it. But we're apparently not going to see eye to eye. So please, Blake, just be nowhere near me at any time, because I can't understand your premises and where you're coming from. It makes no sense to me. I don't get it. It's part of the job we both excitedly signed up for. The job you signed up for was to be an actress. That's your job. I don't shy away from it because it's not problematic. It's the assignment. Like when someone's about to start an athletic event, It's their job to be in top shape. So she understands, at least in some context, right, that someone's look, appearance, weight, physicality might be relevant to their job, right? So she seems to understand that in some contexts, the way you look, appear, your body might be relevant to your job. So if you're an athlete, those jobs are part of your profession, right? And those aspects are also relevant to being an actor. I mean, not necessarily. I mean, it's not necessarily relevant to every acting role, what you look like, because of course it depends on the message and what you're trying to send. So, maybe it doesn't matter what you look like for the role. It depends on the vision of the person who's putting it together. Or maybe the aesthetic really matters. It depends on what message they're trying to send. Right? So you could have a whole bunch of people that, have no particular look or no particular appearance. And maybe that is a valid choice for a certain kind of work. But, if you were like, that's not the choice I want to make for the kind of work I'm trying to produce, okay, fair enough. My husband and I both look at certain roles as athletic events, and this is one of them. It's not always part of the job, but this one is, and it's great, right? Yeah, so fair enough, like you sort of seem to understand this, like your job to be in top shape might not necessarily be part of your role as an actor. It might not be part of your role as an actor, but it is part of this role because they want your character to look a particular way. Like, okay, as much as I love to not think about it, it'd be irresponsible and also impossible because it's unrealistic to not acknowledge what I need to do. This is my job here, and I meet my responsibilities with extreme work ethic. I look for solutions to achieve my high goals instead of lowering my goals. We all win when we're each firing at our highest capabilities. And both you and I are, and continue to. I just need as much time as possible because I just had my 4th baby. I understand you'll never personally know all the nuances of challenges unless you've lived this physical moment in time with this physical road in head. So having your understanding and support to help me pull this off is critical and very, very appreciative. Not just my experience now, but also healing from experiences in the past. So thank you. We're going to kill it. And so be fit. They have to Lola us to make us look less banging. What the fuck does that mean? Please translate that into English. And be so fit, they have to Lola us to make us less banging. I don't know what that means, and I'm not sure I want to know what that means. What does Lola us mean? What the fuck does Lola us mean? Low lights? Okay. Lively then delivered an ultimatum. If Baldoni could not get on board with her work methods, he still had 2 weeks to recast her. You probably should have recasted her, dude. You should probably recast her. Lola is editing software? Okay. All right, fair enough. All right. Lola is editing software. All right, so we have to go to the edit to make her less attractive. Okay. Implicit in this ultimatum was a threat to destroy Baldoni's reputation and career. As Lively well known, Baldoni had worked hard throughout his career to earn and deserve a reputation based on passionate advocacy for women's rights, a reputation she would later exploit and weaponize against him. If Lively were to back out of the film, especially based on accusations of fat shaming, Baldoni's reputation and life worth itself would be in tatters. He had no choice but to bow to Lively's and Reynolds' demands. Concern about Lively's undue influence over the film began to grow even before it started. The producer, he cannot let her have opinions on everything. Jamie, Blake, the producer, or she's going to be co-directing the film. Yes. Yeah, we were talking a lot about that yesterday. Exactly. That's why everyone's starting to lose it. We've been talking about the same thing for months. It's starting to get resolved. The producer, no, it's not. Nice. This was the first time Lively openly moved to seize control of the film from Baldoni, but it would not be the last. I'm running out of water, which means it's probably time to stop streaming. This bottle was full when we started streaming, and I've moved through the entire bottle. Apparently, I'm very thirsty today. More water. When the water runs out, the stream is over. Principal photography began on the film as early as May 2023. On set, Lively continued to maintain what later appeared to be a facade of a close, caring relationship with Baldoni, even as she continued to make escalating demands for creative control. By the time production began, Lively and Baldoni had worked closely together for months, and Lively expressed warm gratitude for her collaboration with Baldoni on the eve of filming. Throughout the first filming period, Lively continued to share open and unguarded thoughts on life of the character. She talked about wardrobe choices to make her character much sexier. Lively continued to express warm appreciation and respect for Baldoni as filming continued, even as she acknowledged she could be difficult and critical of others, using the kind of language he herself would find inappropriate. Justin saying, "I'm not going to tell you that you were amazing because you tease me for being so sentimental, but you were amazing today." Blake says, "Thank you, I do appreciate it. I'm just a ball buster." Yep, but it means a lot to me. I care a great deal and always want to deliver. You were terrific. I'm proud of everything we did today, but really every day. Thank you. And then there's a little footnote here, a little cheeky footnote. Lively's use of the word ballbuster would certainly make it on her 17-point list had been Baldoni who said it. Nice. She gets to use language. I don't get to use language. That's fun. Lively's intimate comfort with Baldoni continued as filming progressed. In June of 2023, after the alleged harassment, an uncomfortable situation occurred. She even invited Baldoni to her trailer to rehearse while pumping breast milk, saying, quote, "I'm just pumping in my trailer if you want to work out lines." I mean, I can't say that would necessarily make me comfortable in a professional context. I mean, could you imagine that if I was working in a law firm? I'm working in a law firm and I'm working on a complaint. And I'm talking to another attorney, and I say, I have some questions about the thing you added, and the other attorney says, "I'm just pumping if you want to work on the complaint." I'm like, I'll wait till you're done. I'm good. That seems odd to me, but okay. Maybe I just don't understand Hollywood. Oh man. Lively was so close and comfortable with Baldoni, she felt that she freely breastfed in front of him during meetings, including when her husband was present. Yeah, maybe you could do that, not necessarily right in front of me. That's a little odd. It's not if you were my wife, I get, that's much different. But you're not my wife, and so that's maybe not so much right in front of me. I don't know. Oftentimes, Lively's baby nurse would come in mid-meeting with Lively's hungry baby, and Lively would breastfeed openly and without hesitation. Yeah, I don't know about that one. On every occasion, Baldoni averted his eyes from Lively's chest, either maintaining eye contact or looking away. Lively also took photos of him holding and soothing her crying baby in her penthouse. They laughed deliriously during late-night writing sessions. All these events took place after the alleged sexual harassment. Lively's accusations seemed to come out of the blue. She even knew his tea order. Lively herself set the tone for personal discussions on set, including what language was acceptable. Yeah, that makes sense, right? It's like you set the tone for what we're doing, man. Yeah. For example, on one occasion while filming a restaurant scene, Lively sat on the floor in painfully expensive shoes while discussing a group of male cast and how sexy her shoes were. Lively had no issue using the word sexy herself, but apparently took offense both times Baldoni said the word in her presence. Though she was loose and relaxed on her speech on set, she was increasingly stringent in her demands that she imposed on production. She rewrote her own dialogue constantly and took it upon herself to make unilateral changes to other characters' lines, effectively rewriting the script day by day. This pattern of domineering interference caused unending interruptions to the production process, leading to entirely unnecessary stress, chaos, and delays. It was well documented on film footage how she took increasing changes and how at every turn, Baldoni took her thoughts and out of fear of repercussion, constantly tried to accommodate her. All right, well, my friends, we are 39 pages into this thing of 224 pages. We've got a long way to go. We have subsection E, and we have a long way to go. But I think now is as good a time as any to take a break, because we can pick this up in part 2 of many. Right, but by the time we get done with the complaint and the attached exhibits, we're going to be like 4 or 5 parts probably by the time we're done with this thing. There's a lot of detail. But my thoughts are, that Baldoni is not messing around. He's like, I have receipts and I'm not afraid to use them. So, that's sort of the thing. So, it's certainly very, very interesting. So I guess we'll go ahead and sign off for now. We may be on later today with part 2 of this, or we may do something else today and be on like tomorrow with part 2. So I don't know exactly what sequence of events. Probably be on later today with some sort of Trump thing, because Trump makes news every single day. And trying to keep up with that is now a full-time job. But we'll see what happens in the news and go from there, I suppose, how it goes. So I guess we'll sign off for now. And, let me know if you like this content. Make sure to, leave a comment if you like this kind of thing. And we'll try to go through it as in much detail as we can. But Baldoni seems like, it's like, I've got receipts. I'm here to prove exactly what happened. And, we'll see how eventually Blakely responds to this, because it's going to be really interesting. So we'll go for all that. I'll sign up for now. Until later, my friends, I hope all is well. Cheers for now, my friends, and goodbye.